no surprise to you and I.
We talked about it yesterday.
Night.
Wait a minute, Chris. Oh, wait a minute. They're going to be rusty because they've been off for a long time, and this is going to be the chance for Denver for the Heat to steal Game 1. That's going to change the series. Watch and see, and they got hard, and they got this and they got that. No.
And they got mollywopped.
Exactly.
104-93. I mean, they made a nice little run. It was 21 points near the end of the third quarter, the deficit. They made a nice little run, cut it to 9 in the fourth quarter, but never really in doubt. Denver just scored. I mean, they just turned it on and kept Miami at bay. Look, Rob, we both think the series is over. I thought it was over before it started. I think Denver wins. I picked 6. It might not go more than 5. You picked 5. I think Miami's heart and grit and coaching and execution and pride and all of that could get them a game, maybe 2, I was saying. But I feel like Denver's just the better team, and Denver really would almost have to they'd have to help Miami, I think, Rob. They'd have to help Miami because I think they're the better team. Boston helped Miami by losing focus half the time.
Right.
And so Milwaukee, just I don't think they were like Boston, but they just got some weaknesses
but Chris,
that Miami was able to exploit.
We haven't seen Denver do that. That's the thing that's different.
Nope.
Denver, they don't do that. They don't lose focus. They don't play down to the competition. They don't assume anything. They're not like,
right.
Hey, we'll wait and come back and win at home and all that other nonsense. No.
Yep.
No.
We're here to take care of business. And remember, Rob, the Nuggets have never won an NBA championship. So this would be their first. Heck, this is their first trip to the finals.
Right.
And so this would be huge for the city and franchise in Denver. But let's go here because there's been a lot of talk. And look, Jimmy Butler, for my money, he's been the second best player in these playoffs. Some people might say Jamal Murray. I would say Jimmy Butler, second to Jokic, of course, because Jimmy Butler is the number one guy in Miami. He's carrying them. He's carried them through all these series. He's their best player. He's the guy that the defenses focus on and game plan for and all of that. Whereas Jamal Murray, as great as he's playing, and I think he's rounding into a great all-around player or great player, period, he's the second option. So it does make it's a different animal when everyone's preparing for Jokic and the game plan is to stop Jokic. So it's a little easier for Jamal Murray. So I think Jimmy Butler's been the second best guy in these playoffs. But last night, Rob, he struggled. 13 points, 6 for 14 from the floor, and really made no impact at all. He's had 5 of his points in the first couple of possessions, so that means he had 8 the rest of the game. And here's the point I want to make and ask you about, Rob. We've been talking, there's been a lot about Jimmy Buckets. He even trademarked, copywrote his nickname, or a nickname, Himmy Buckets. Him. That's the big thing now. I'm him. So he's Himmy Buckets. He trademarked that. Playoff Jimmy is a thing. There's no doubt about it. And he's really gotten a lot of love and a lot of accolades, and people have put him on a higher level than he was thought of going into these playoffs. And here's what I want to say, Rob. If LeBron James, if Steph Curry, if Luka Doncic, who hasn't been to a finals, if Jokic, if Giannis, Embiid, any of these top players that we've kind of pushed, heck, Jason Tatum, that we've put Jimmy in the category of, if they had a game like last night, 13 points, 6 of 14 shooting, not only do you not make an impact, it looked like you, I don't want to say didn't try, because I know he was playing hard, and he certainly didn't melt. It wasn't like the moment was too big. He didn't look out of sorts, but he just made no imprint whatsoever on the basketball game. And Rob, I'm saying if any of those other players that I named and a few more had done that, I think they really be getting criticized a lot more harshly than Jimmy Butler is. And does that, first, do you agree with that? Secondly, does that mean something? Does that say, well, we really know that he's not as good as those guys, as great as he's been in these playoffs?
It says two things. A, he's not on that level of these other guys, Chris.
Durant, right?
Right. Like Durant would be crushed, but he's not on that level. And that's why I think that, people kind of cut him slack. Look at what he's been able to do. Jimmy Bucket's all right, the little engine that could or whatever. People look at him that way and not like a pillar in the NBA. And my God, what do you mean you didn't get it done on the road against Denver? You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean you didn't impact the game at all? So I think those are some of the things. And the other thing too, Chris, this is why, I know you have him at the, in the Hall of Fame and I know it's all debatable and numbers and all that stuff. But this is why I'm saying he's not there yet, because I just don't believe, because of the scrutiny he doesn't get, tells you how people view him. They consider him second tier, not first tier. Would you buy into that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Second tier at
best.
And it's not that right. Second
tier at best.
Yep. And that doesn't mean that he's a bum. I'm not saying that at all.
Right.
He's not a great player, Chris, but he's second tier. That's why he doesn't get taken to task when things don't work out or when they lose 3 in a row. You know what I mean? After being up 3-0.
That's fair. I think I agree with you on that. The only thing I would disagree with, and this might play into your hands, but there are guys in the Hall of Fame that, there's levels, right? Even in the Hall of Fame, they're the absolute elite of all elite. And then there are guys that were really good. Tim Hardaway, colleague at Fox Sports 1, who was a great player. But he wasn't Isaiah Thomas. You know what I mean? He wasn't
no, Chris, there are guys. I understand that.
Steph Curry. So I think that's why I would say I think he's still a Hall of Famer, but I totally agree with the rest of what you said.
Okay. And I get your point that you're making about some of the other people who are in.
Ben Wallace not one of the all-time, like the greatest 10 centers
the
in
only
the league,
thing that Ben Wallace has is 4 straight Defensive Player of the Year and a championship. And that's what separated him. But here, Jimmy Buckets, as they call him, has scored 16 points or fewer, Chris, in 3 of his last 6 playoff games.
Yes.
That's something. And you remember how much we killed Anthony Davis, right?
Oh, yeah. That's
early
another
in the playoffs,
good example.
They called him every other Davis. Every other Davis. Very nice.
Right. And, no, I agree with you. And that was another good name you brought up. And Jimmy Butler, I think it's worn him down. I don't mean physically necessarily, but
mentally,
it's a lot. I don't even know. It's just a tough deal to carry a team for 3 rounds through the number 1 and the number 2 seeds when you're an 8 seed.
Right. No,
and Rob, you mentioned that 3 of his last 6, he scored 16 or fewer. And those last 6 games, he's averaging 21 points or 20 points.
And you remember that
on 39% shooting. The first 12, he averaged 31 points. So he's had a clear drop off.
And you remember that game 6, Chris? That game 6 at home to close it out, and he shot 5 for 20. What was it?
Yep.
5 for 22. Is that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like that's your big game to wrap it up at home, and he couldn't get it done.